Hello, welcome back to school. This is a video request stroke demonstration of how a blind person reads music and plays piano. Now, if you know about Braille in general, you understand that you need your fingers to read the Braille. If you know about piano or any other keyboard instrument, organ, harpsichord, you need your fingers to physically play the music on the keyboard. So, if the notes are written by means of dots, which need your fingers, and you're playing notes, you're physically playing on the piano or keyboard, whatever, with your fingers. If you sit down and think really hard, you're going to have the same question that Susan at Piano Roadmap had inquired about. She had asked, how is it that a blind person is able to read music and play piano at the same time? Well, I don't think she asked at the same time, but she did ask this question. And before I go into answer that, I'd like to talk a little bit about her. She is an organist and pianist, and she also posts videos about piano tutorials and piano lessons on her YouTube channel, Piano Roadmap. And information, her channel will be posted down in the description. She is currently in the middle of a video series that deals with playing chords. Everything from major chords to minor chords, seventh chords, augmented chords, diminished chords, and the extended chords. She is posting those videos on her channel. So check that out. It is very, very useful information for anyone who is needing to know about chords and anything else she's got videos for. A quick request for Susan directly, very similar to how you're making the chord videos. Could you do something like this for intervals? Understanding how to play the intervals with different fingering or different octaves, not different octaves, but different key signatures, different exercises for getting those intervals in the fingers or in the shape of the hand. I am pretty much on a rampage of finding any information I can find to learn these basic skills, chords, intervals, scales. Scales are obviously, it's just practicing, but basically how to play this stuff without looking at the keyboard. I don't have the luxury of looking at the keyboard and seeing clearly the black and white keys. I know that they're there, but when I look at the keyboard, there are some notes like the B flat and the E flat for some reason are missing. So I need to learn these things literally by touch. So that is my request for you. If you could please do that, I would greatly appreciate that. Back to your video request. We are going to look at some music of let's say it's a piano student. They're, I don't know, RCM grade 10 or whatever the Leticia, I don't, whatever those advanced diploma levels are. They're doing their grade levels and they are working on a piano sonata, or perhaps they're at university and they're working on a piano sonata. And this particular student happens to be blind. They can't read printed music. So they have a Braille copy. So I want to go through and show you a little bit about how the Braille music is set up in relation to the print music, and at least look through a couple bars of music to kind of give you an idea of what it is, how a blind person would read this, or I shouldn't say what, but how, but the stuff that a blind person has to learn to read through a piece of music. Now, before I can go to that, I need to make a huge disclaimer. Before a blind person can read music of this particular level, they have to have theory, and a lot of it. When the sighted student learns about music, they learn their theory alongside in their lesson. They usually start in the key of C major, and they learn, oh, this is a key of C major, no sharps, no flats. Then they move to the key of G major, and they learn, oh, G major has one sharp, and it's F sharp. Then they move to the key of F major, and they learn that F major has one flat, B flat. And they just learn this stuff, through their lesson books and, through their many years of tutelage with their teacher. Or whoever it is that they're studying with. Now, if a blind person wanted to read through music, they have to, let's say the piece of music has 4 flats. Now, in printed music, you could look at that music and you could say, oh, that's in A flat major. Easy. Or that's in F minor. That's super easy. But in Braille, you don't have that luxury. You just get the number 4 and a flat. That's all you get. It is up to the student to know what key that 4 flats represents. So when I say that the student needs to learn theory before they can read music, we're not just talking about your basic notation of this is a quarter note and this is a half note and this is a note C and this is where you place your finger and all that stuff. We're talking about they have to memorize key signatures. They have to memorize intervals, not only above notes, but also below notes. And the reason is that they have to learn intervals below notes is because of how the Braille system is set up. If a student wants to read chords in the right hand, all they're given is a note and then a couple numbers that represent intervals that are below that particular note. It's very similar to figured bass. We'll just say that. If you're familiar with figured bass, it's very similar to that. For bass, for the left hand, if the student wants to learn how to read chords in the left hand, all they get is a bass note or the bass note of that chord and a bunch of numbers. Or I shouldn't even say numbers. They're just random Braille symbols that represent numbers. So the student needs to understand that first they need to understand what those random symbols are, and then they need to know, okay, well, if this symbol is a 3, and I'm on a let's say I'm on an F, and this is on a 3, and I have 4 flats in my key signature, I have to know that I'm on A flat and not just A. So these are concepts that in piano lesson books, they're not taught. They're just not taught. So a student needing to know what I would call spelling intervals, being able to spell intervals above different notes and below different notes is really, really critical for a blind person. Because if they're, for example, if they're in the key of D flat major and they read an interval of a 6 above an A flat, they're not going to have time to sit and think, no, if I'm on A flat, B flat, C. I mean, they're not going to have that time. It would just be like memorizing your multiplication tables when you're in school. You just have to memorize them because it's going to be used. So there's a lot of basic fundamental stuff. Well, I wouldn't say fundamental, but fundamental to Braille. Intervals, key signatures, understanding chord quality, how those are built. Things like that are really, really important for learning how to read music in Braille. So, with the preliminary stuff out of the way, let us look at our piece of music that our piano student who is at university or completing their exams or whatever, what they're going to be looking at. So we're going to flip you around. Okay, so this here is a piece of Braille music. This is a legitimate piece of Braille music that I actually had Brailled when I was at university. This is after I learned about the code. I didn't have a teacher or anything to really help me through it, so I was basically left to my own devices of figuring out how this worked. I was very much in an experimental stage of, am I going to be able to learn music faster than I do, from using cited notation, printed notation? And I had some pretty interesting experience with that. I will post some additional videos in the description that pertains both to Braille and a little bit about my, I've made a couple of shorts of my university experiences. I will post those in the description and you can watch those after the video. Okay, so just like we have a title here, we have a sonata in F minor, and this is your year, your composer, opus number, all that good stuff. Then we have what I consider the front matter, your tempo, allegro, and then you have your treble clef, your bass clef, your key signature, your time signature, and you're off and running. However that goes. I have not looked at this in forever. I think I learned most of the first movement, but I don't think I did. I don't think I finished the whole sonata. So this is what the sighted person sees. They start at measure 1, they read through, they continue through, and that's how they read music. They read music graphically on a staff. In Braille, all of the music is written horizontally. There is no up and down of music notation. Everything is written horizontally, line by line, note by note, measure by measure, and it continues on to the next page. Down here, what I have, these are measure numbers. So this page here, it covers 1 to measure 13. Now, just to give you an idea of how much music that is, we're going to look at the printed score. We have measure 1, and let's find measure 13. That's measure 10, 11, 12, 13. Let's double check here. Yeah, that's 15. So here, where my finger is, actually, I'm going to just block right there. So my Braille music basically covers not even a full 3 systems, just over 3.5 or 2.5 systems of music. So Braille music takes up a lot of space, and obviously you can't fit much on a whole page. In the printed realm, you still have a measure here, plus 3 more systems of music. So, yeah. Okay, so that's just to give you a perspective of how much music is on one page of Braille. Looking at the front matter here, we have our title. This is double capital, which tells you the whole word is capital. I'm actually going to zoom in on this. There we go. So we have a double capital. This says Sonata. And then it says your opus number. And down here is your time signature and your key signature. Here's your opus number right there. Okay, so then down here we have our tempo marking. That's your measure 1, tempo marking. Here it is. I don't know why the tempo marking is pushed so far inwards, but it is. This says allegro, and then there's a period or a full stop. And this is what I was talking about with your time signature. You have a number 4, and then you have your flat. Well, this is your key signature. You have your number 4 and your flat. That's a key signature. And then your time signature, which is just cut time. So a student needs to understand what that is before they even can read this. Looking elsewhere here, these symbols here are off to the side. These are measure numbers. This is your pickup measure. And then you have measure 3, measure 5, measure 6, measure 7, measure 8, measure 10, measure 11, measure 12, and measure 13. So basically most of this page has 1 measure per line. Yeah. Looking again up at this first line of music, we have dynamic markings. Obviously this is your left hand. No, that's your right hand. This is your left hand. Now the interesting thing about Braille is we don't have clefs. We don't have a treble and a bass clef. Instead, we have what are called octave marks or octave symbols, which basically mean if a student was feeling a pitch C and it was preceded by a specific symbol. I'm trying to keep the Braille jargon to a complete nil. But it was preceded by a specific symbol that represented the 4th octave. The student would have to know where on the keyboard that particular note laid is, where they would have to play the note. They would have to also understand, like, even just reading them, they would have to know what these octaves meant in the sense of notation and where they were on the piano. So that again is another pre-Braille fundamental thing that needs to be learned before a student can read through a piece of music. Okay, now oh geez, I don't know what you're just looking at. I hope it wasn't ugly. looking back at this music here, after the tempo, we have some notes. These are all music notes. And then this thing here is a phrase and more symbols that mean other things, which I had to write in a bunch of stuff so that I understood what this was. Looking at the left hand, we have, which, let me show you that. Measure with the right hand. Here. So that was your phrase marking. Yeah. So looking at the left hand, we are looking here. Where did that measure go? Here. Left hand, we have a symbol that means a quarter rest or a crotchet rest. And as you can see, I wrote it in pencil so that I understood what I'm looking at, because I was learning this as I'm learning the Braille as I'm reading it, which is not a good way to learn music. And then you have whole rest, and this little thing here, it just means it's a tracker so you don't lose your spot. But you could also think of it as whole, you resting throughout this whole period. And then you have another rest here, which is, again, another crotchet rest, quarter rest. Also, each space is a bar line. So there's no physical straight line down. It's just a space. So that's the other thing that kind of has to be kind of felt and all that good stuff. So then we have a note in the left hand. We have what's your third octave symbol, and then we have the note fa with the dot 6 underneath it, and that basically means that this is going to be a fa. It's in the third octave of the keyboard, and it's going to be held for a quarter beat. And if we look at the music notation here, there's a rest, and there we have a fa, and it's a quarter note, and it is in the third octave. Okay, moving back to our Braille notation. We have then a symbol for a 3, and then we have, I think that's I can't read what that says. A sharp? I think that's a sharp, but I could be wrong. It's something. I forget what it is. I think it's a natural. No, it's not a natural. I'm not sure what this symbol is, but it's a symbol. And I should know what the symbol is, but I don't. Anyways, we have your third interval, and then we have a fifth interval. And then we have two symbols that look like, I don't know, well, to me they look like equal signs, but it basically is repeat. Repeat the stuff that you just played 2 more times. That's a repeat. That's called a Braille repeat. So then you're basically just playing these notes again. And because these are intervals, it is understood that these are played on top of this fundamental note that is already printed here in the score. So obviously you can tell that the notation does not look anything like your standard notation. Here, to write out a chord, everything is spelled out linear. Whatever is going on up here, which is probably the turn, yeah. You have a note that's being held plus a little turn there. And you have a triplet symbol. Nice. Oh, am I looking at the right line? No, I'm not looking at the right line. But other way, you have a turn and you still have a triplet symbol. So there's a lot of stuff being just outright spelled out. This is one reason why a person cannot just pick up a piece of Braille music and just play it. There's just too much information on these pages. So, now we get to the good part. How does a blind person really go through and learn a piece of music in Braille? Obviously, our metaphorical piano student is not going to sit at the piano and plunk out every single note. This is an F, and then this is a third, and then this is a fifth above the F. They're not going to do that. They're going to have all of this stuff memorized, and a lot of the theory already in advance memorized. They're going to understand that an F minor chord is built on an F, and then a third, and then the fifth. They're going to know what those notes are before they even touch this piece of music in Braille. So, I have a little example over here. This is from, oops, it's upside down. This is from a lesson book for primer school age people. And it basically teaches the absolute bare basics of music reading in Braille. They do use the use of a recorder, but I really discouraged against that. I had made a review video on this on my other YouTube channel, BRL. That video and the other BRL channel will be put in the description as well. And so they were just, I would propose having a student just read through the music, like sing it, sight sing the music, and then go to the piano and play it. So that is something which I'm going to actually try to attempt in this little blurb here. So, I am, let's see, that's a title. I don't want to show you the printed music right away because as I'm making this video, I'm going to see it. And if I see it, I may subconsciously memorize parts of it, which would not be very fair. Okay, so we have a title which is called L-A-U, Laurie, oh gosh, Lorian? Is that a name? I don't know, but it feels like a name. And then, oh, maybe it's Laura's. I don't know. We'll just say it's Laura's because I can't read. We'll just say it's Laura's song. Bam. We're done. Laura's song. This is in the key of, it doesn't have a key, so it's more than likely in C major. And then we have 4/4 time. And I am just reading through the note. I'm just reading through the Braille here. Actually, I could just do it like this. Here. Where was I reading? Here it is. So here we have L-A-U-R-E-N? Laureen S. Oh, that's apostrophe S. So I have Laureen's, I think it's Laureen's, but I don't know because I can't read. I'm still working on that. Laureen's song, S-O-N-G. So we have Laureen's song, and then we have a number sign and a 4, and then we have a dropped 4, which basically a drop symbol or a drop number means it's written in the lower part of the cell. I will again post videos. I've got a playlist all about Braille that I'll put in the description, so you can watch that to kind of get a better understanding of what these weird symbols mean, the weird terms. So we have a 4/4 time signature, and then we have an octave symbol, which means a fourth octave, and everything else is notes. So I'm going to make an attempt of reading through this right now and solfeging this little exercise. I'm going to give myself a pitch because I don't have a pitch thing. So I'm going to give myself a pitch real quick. Okay. So I gave myself a pitch. It's an octave below everything that's written, but I'm not going to sing up in the treble octave because it's late at night and I'm kind of tired. Okay. So this is in 4/4 time. I'm just reading through, kind of getting an idea of what the music is. So we have a semi-breve and another semi-breve. We have 2 minims. Then we have a semi-breve and a semi-breve and a semi-breve and a semi-breve. There's a lot of semi-breves in this piece of music. Or whole notes. There's a lot of whole notes and a couple minims, quarter note, half notes. So we have our pitch. So I'm just gonna go through and sing this, and while I'm singing this, I will be more or less memorizing the music. So 1, 2, 3, 4. T. Yeah, that's T. T. So or la. I want to say sol, but that sounds. Oh, that's a T. So we got T, la, T, la, sol. Wow, that little bit right after the 2 la's, it goes back up to T. I would think it would go down to sol, but it doesn't. So in my little brain, I'm going to think, okay, that's a spot that I need to learn and memorize and make sure that I don't screw it up. So I'm going to go through and sing through the exercise again and see if I can do it more fluently. I'm not going to do the conducting thing because I really don't like to conduct. It distracts me. T, la, T, la, sol. Okay, so, T, la, okay, I would say it's in about a 2-bar or a 2-section phrase. Again, that weird spot after the 2 la's and then going back up to the T, I would say that would be your phrase 1, and then all the couple notes at the end would be your phrase 2. T, la, T, la, sol. Yeah, so I have sung it through a couple different times. I've been reading through it, feeling through it with the phalanges right here. And now we have the fun part of actually taking this to the keyboard to see whether or not if I can play it without having to look at the music notes and figure out what are these notes. So let me move over to the clavier. We are now at the clavier. Yay! Because I don't have any overheads or anything like that, I'm just gonna manhandle this whole thing. So the music score that I was looking at is right here. So these are the actual notes that I was looking at. And now I'm going to take these notes and play them on this little guy. Yeah, I'll leave it on the organ. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's basically that little ditty. Let me check and see if I got that right. So we got, where did it go? Ti, ti, la, la, ti, ti, la, so. Yeah, I think I read that correctly. So I essentially have that thing memorized to a point where I did not have to feel the notes as I'm playing through it. And the actual notation of this is sitting over here. Let me set you here for now. Oh. Trip over my music desk. This is the the music teacher book that has all the examples in standard notation and in what we call simulated Braille. Sorry, I'm really bad at this. But this, yeah, here. This is the notation for the Braille that I was just looking at. They flip you. Oh, sorry. So here's the notation in simulated Braille. This is not real Braille. This is just for a sighted teacher. So we got T, T, La, La, T, T, La, Sol. That's how that works out. And over here, this is why I didn't want to look at the actual notation, because I could very easily memorize stuff like this, because it's just, yeah, a little bit on the easy side. So this is an example of how a blind person could learn music. Now, by way of closure, I have a couple of stuff written on the board. I'm really sorry about the shadow. But if, in my case, given the experience, I have university experience. I've been doing piano, self-taught with guidance here and there for a very, very long time. I've never really had a piano teacher for any length of time. This is how I would go about learning music in Braille, provided I had all this, fundamental stuff. Obviously, there's that preliminary stuff, or the prerequisite of knowing the theory, knowing the key signatures, knowing time signatures, rhythms, things like that, spelling intervals, spelling chords, being able to not necessarily play them fluently, but have somewhat of an idea of what, your basic chords are, at least your major, your minor, your augmented and diminished, and your dominant 7, basic chords like that. Having a good understanding of the intervals, spelling above and below notes, because that's how chords are built in Braille. Key signatures, knowing the different key signatures for the sharps and flats, knowing how many sharps, say, F sharp minor has, or how many flats, say, B flat major has. Just knowing that stuff, being able to spell the scales of those keys. Keys and scales closely related. So things like that. And then, of course, being able to understand the different octaves of the keyboard and having an understanding of that, knowing where the different octaves are by where you're sitting at the on the keyboard. After all that preliminary stuff is done, after the student has a basic understanding of Braille music notation, such as knowing the rhythms of the notes as far as what they feel like in Braille, and knowing the pitches, knowing what they feel like in Braille, the student would need to do a lot of music reading, like a lot of music reading. And the whole purpose of this is so that the student can read music and memorize music away from the piano. One of the huge struggles for blind people is having a lot of papers and stuff like that, working at the piano, working with, the Braille, and, it's just a struggle. So in my perfect world, the student would have done a lot of music reading so that they are basically training themselves how to read music fluently. And so they would do, a lot of simple single line melodic and rhythmic stuff. They would not necessarily memorize it, but just practice reading. The next thing, once they're really good at reading music, like in the sense of solfeging, they are then given pieces of music at appropriate grade level of what their, reading ability for piano is. They would then learn how to skim the music, learn where the key signatures and the time signatures, understanding the form, things like that. Possibly understanding basic harmonic structures. This would be them kind of more or less mapping out the music that they are about to work on. And this could be anything simple from that piece that I just sang and played to the Beethoven F minor sonata to concerti and whatever floats your boat. So being able to read through the music in the sense of understanding the mapping of what's going on. Is this a fugue? Is it in binary form? Is it in ternary form? Is it sonata form? All this stuff. So that's mapping. Once you kind of get an idea of the mapping of the music, you can then read the music hands separately and sing the music. And this is not done at the piano. This is still done, all these introductory steps or whatever are done away from the piano. So this is basically when the student begins to memorize and get a feel for how the music sounds, and it begins more or less to put it together. They wouldn't be doing this for the whole piece. They would do like a section at a time. They would read through, say, the left hand, then they would read through the right hand, and they would sing through the parts within their octaves and doing octave displacement as needed. And then while they're going through and reading and singing this, they are simultaneously memorizing the music. And once they have the portion of music memorized, they would then go to the piano and basically sit down and play from their head, using the music only as reference if needed. But a majority of the music should already be in the student's head before they even go to the piano and play it. And this is basically to reduce the amount of work in the sense of decoding and all that good stuff at the piano, because they've already done that away from the piano. This idea of learning music like this, whoops, let me move my hand, was actually given to me from one of my mentors. He knew that I couldn't see music, like be able to sight read it. So at the time, I was working on, I think it was an impromptu by Schubert. I was working on an impromptu, or was it a sonata? Oh gosh, now I forget. Either or, it was not an easy piece of music. I was working through a piece of music. We'll just call it a piece of music, because I cannot tell you what it was. It was so long ago. But I was working through a piece of music, and he had said, I want you to memorize a portion of music before you go and practice at the piano. So I would sit in the hallway of where I was practicing, or, sit outside, wherever. I would basically be away from the piano, and I would be memorizing, small sections of music, and trying to analyze the chords and trying to figure out, okay, this goes da da da. Memorizing things, trying to memorize the fingering, and obviously, knowing the key and things like that, memorizing all this stuff. And after I had like a phrase or so, for the most part in my head, I had an idea of what it said. I would then go to the piano, and I would sit down at the piano, and I could almost play the passage almost perfect on the first try. And I didn't have to, struggle to look at the notes, or, figure out what the notes were, slowly building them from the music notation, because I had already done all that work in the sense of memorizing the notes before, away from the piano. For example, that F minor thing, if I were to take that either on Braille or in print, I would take that and I think, okay, I'm starting on, I'm just taking a stab in the dark. I think it starts on a pitched Do or a C, and then it goes up on an F minor triad, if I'm not mistaken, and then that chord on that full second bar after on the second quarter of the first beat, that's on an F minor chord. I mean, I can already kind of piece it together just right now talking about it, because I've looked at the music, so I wouldn't say so many times, but I've just looked at the music so often that I just kind of, oh yeah, and then it goes, after the F minor, it goes to dominant 7, having an idea of that. So, and this would reduce a lot of the hours or whatever, or just time sitting at the piano that someone would normally do, working out notes. If they actually sat down with the score and worked it out ahead of time, and then went to the piano and played it, they would pretty much amaze themselves. So that's kind of where I got that plan for learning Braille music. And even now, when I do my practicing organ stuff, I try to sing what anything I can. I try to sing it. And that's basically not because I have the world's perfect voice. In fact, I really don't like my voice, but it's given to me, so I have to deal with it. But it's that oral concept of what I'm hearing. My sense of hearing is so much better than my sense of sight. If I play through, a passage and I can sing through it and get those notes in my ear, I will have a better time of getting those notes memorized rather than trying to figure it out purely from the written notation with absolutely no other music input of voice or anything. So yeah, definitely having those fundamental stuff and then going through, reading through the music, memorizing the music, and then you just go to the piano. That's pretty much how a blind person reads music and plays piano. Well, they just memorize the music and then they go to the piano and they play it. So I don't know if this answered your question. I hope it did. I'm sorry it took forever as long as it did. But I enjoyed kind of going through it and talking through it. It kind of gave me something to, think about again as I am slowly working through some of this stuff right now with teacher right now. But yeah, so that pretty much concludes how a blind person reads music. In short, they memorize it. They just memorize it. And that's, I honestly think, other than their ear, their next superpower is their memory. Because, we memorize a lot. And it's kind of amazing all the stuff we memorize and we don't even think about it. But we memorize a lot. But to have all that stuff memorized, it gives us a greater disposal of things that we can impart to the rest of the world. So, if you want to like, share, and subscribe, links and videos and all that good stuff will be in the description. Don't forget, ring the notification bell for all notifications.